and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast where we prefer a live audience. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back to our live audience. Funny how that works, right? My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. The big news of the day.
Unreal.
Joe Biden has graciously agreed to debate. Two debates he's agreed to. Trump has now agreed to a third. So we'll see. They put out a big video, Josh. Big video. Huge.
Yeah.
Monumental undertaking.
It was earth-shaking.
Camera work, scripting, editing. A fantastic masterclass of Joe Biden announcing that he is going to debate. Let's play that video and talk about it.
Let's see it.
Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
So, let's talk about it. That last line is a very clear, very obvious attack on Donald Trump because his current court schedule does not have hearings on Wednesdays. So his court cases, the courts have been giving everyone off on Wednesdays. So when Joe Biden says, I'll debate you, pick the day, I hear you're free on Wednesdays, I spit out my drink. Yeah. I spit out my drink when I said it because all this time they've perpetuated the lie. We know it's a lie, but they at least put up appearances that this isn't a political witch hunt against Trump, that the Biden White House has nothing to do with it, and that they're just going to hands off, let the court case go the way it will. To end your video taunting your political opponent that, yeah, we can have a debate on Wednesdays, since that's the day that my DOJ isn't going to be demanding that you be in court.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting. It's an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's veiled threats that you hear out there. There's like those dog whistles you're always hearing about, right? Like they're always making some sort of claim that the right's doing something. You've got the left here just flat out talking shit. Like this is like old school. I'll meet you behind this, the 2nd or 8th grade building after we're done, right? It's kind of childish. And the other thing I want to point out is the energy.
Yeah.
I'll kick
yeah.
your
butt. Well, the energy, it's up, it's high. But we're going to play it again, and I want to count the jump cuts. Now, if you told me I have to do a 13-second video, that's how long this is. 13 seconds. Some online things are showing at 14. It's 13 and change. If you told me I had to do a 13-second reading this script, I would just do it in one take.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I messed up the other take, I just do it another take. Because you know what? 13 seconds, not a big deal. You can get a 13-second take.
We do it
Josh,
all the time.
There's 5, all the time. There's 5 jump cuts. 6 actual clips, 5 jump cuts separating them.
That's almost 1 every 2 seconds. Two
Let's
change,
watch.
right?
Let's count them.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
6 cuts, 5 of the jumps, because there's 1 less jump because jumping between them. 6 cuts.
Wow.
Imagine how many times do you think he had to read this script? How long do you think the script was?
Yeah.
I guarantee you they didn't set up the lights, get the makeup, pay the teleprompter guy, the camera guy, pay the video editors. I guarantee you that this wasn't just a 13-second thing. How long do you think the script was? How many cuts do you think they had to do? How many takes do you think they had to do to come up with those 13 seconds from 6 clips?
Oh my gosh.
They should have put a seizure warning at the beginning.
Yeah.
Moving it that much back and forth.
Yeah.
People who have like epilepsy, that's a risk.
Yeah.
Change it up on them like that. That was a lot. That was a lot of jump cuts. A lot of jump cuts.
Could you imagine being the director sitting there like, just say, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. Again.
Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah.
One more time. Let's go back to this, right? Like, how many times did he have to retake those? I'd love to see how many of those weren't used, right? And what that footage looks like. It's got to be bad, dude. Yeah,
do you see his eyes?
They're practically black. I mean, they're like,
yeah. We've talked about this on the show.
Heavy lights.
We've talked about this on the show before. Like, so my pupils are pretty big. I have 2 bright lights right in front of me and my computer monitors, but you can still tell what color are my eyes.
Green, bluish, and I've got it really, really small.
Blue, not green, blue. But I'll say it's the white balance, whatever.
Okay.
His eyes are jet black, completely black, and I want to see. Go ahead.
They're like saucers, man. I mean, they are just like this, right? You just see these big black orbs. His pupils are so dilated right now. At least that's my assumption, unless he's got like dark black eyes to begin with. I mean, is it Joe Biden? No. I mean, is this like one of those black-eyed children that they see that are like vampires that hang outdoors and they've replaced Joe Biden?
Yeah. I mean, let's.
Okay,
they're black. So we've talked on the podcast before about what causes his pupils to go very, very black, go very, very big. He is on medication that causes his pupils to dilate. Now, there are a few different medications that can do that. If you've ever been to an eye doctor, you know that they have to dilate your pupils so that they can get a good reading, make sure your eyes are healthy. And then they say, oh, you can't drive afterwards. You probably can. But if it's a sunny day, it's going to be really hard, especially if you're very sensitive to light. Have you wear sunglasses, have you wear special glasses, or just have someone pick you up. Another common pill that can cause your pupils to be extremely dilated would be amphetamines. Amphetamines, Adderall, that kind of class of medication, in addition to being prescribed for like ADD, things like that, it's also a class of medication that they do prescribe to people with dementia, Alzheimer's, serious mental decline, because just like the medication can get people with ADD to focus, it can also help jumpstart your brain and have it really be very focused. You're not looking around lost all the time. Now, the more you're on that pill, the more that you will develop a resistance to it, like the ability to process it, your body. So if you're on it long term, you're going to have diminishing effects. So what they would do is they would increase the dosage. Well, the problem with that is if you're in your 80s and you're getting basically a legal form of methamphetamine, because it's a class of amphetamines, you run the risk of lots of other really bad problems, heart problems, stroke, lots of issues. So when you get to this age, and we've tracked it, we could track the minute he started taking these, because every time he would go outside, he would instinctively wear those aviator sunglasses. He tries to make it that it's the dark Brandon, that it's this is just my persona. No, it's because his eyes are so dilated from the medication he's on to combat his Alzheimer's that he can't actually go outside and not wear them unless it's heavily overcast. So that's also one of the reasons you look at the still frame that he squints a lot in these videos. One of the reasons that when this happens to you, you'll squint is in a situation like that with studio lighting. He has basically a couple little mini suns in the room, just shining bright light on him. So when your pupils are dilated, it's going to be painful to be looking into that bright light. So you squint to try and restrict how much light can get into your pupils. Remember, just physiologically, your eyes will dilate. Your pupils will get bigger when there's less light in the room. So when it's a dark room and there's less light available, your pupils get bigger so that they can try and harness that light better. In a bright light situation, your pupils will actually do the opposite. Like, oh no, we don't need that. We don't need that much light.
They get tiny, little itty bitty.
Yeah. So seeing him in front of these bright lights, and you can't even tell what color his eyes are.
No.
He's on a significant dosage of this medication. Like,
let's play a little game here. So, what kind of drugs do you think cause this? I mean, you mentioned amphetamines, right? Can start?
We can let him be it.
I'm on it now. One of them is cocaine, and I don't think he's doing cocaine. You know what I mean? I don't think he's doing cocaine in the White House at all. I don't know if anybody is. The last time it was found there, they couldn't pull fingerprints or DNA off of the package, which is
Benzos.
amazing.
He could be on benzos.
Oh, I don't know about that. That would be even weird. He could be on alcohol. Alcohol doesn't.
Ecstasy, Molly.
Yeah, I saw that.
LSD.
That's the other one where, these are highly unlikely that those kind of drugs are going to be in him, right?
Opioids.
Atropine, antihistamines.
But not to this level. Not
But
that.
we're talking
Bath
some of
salts.
these drugs you'd have to be. Oh, I don't think he's doing bath salts. Do you? I really don't.
Heroin.
Weed. No, I don't think he's on that.
Antidepressants.
It's a maybe,
Possible.
but
It's
it'd be
possible.
a high dose, right? I mean, it'd be a high dose.
Sometimes it is the simplest explanation is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than thinking that Joe Biden is out clubbing on Molly every night. or that he's taking one of these festival drugs. It's more likely that he's being described a class of stimulants that is most commonly used to combat degenerative brain function.
Yeah. And some of the side effects of these drugs, they're like, you shouldn't drive, you should avoid direct sunlight, you should avoid running the country. Right? I mean, those would be a few things where I think. Could
you imagine like just listening to a TV commercial and like the guy at the end like reads the really fast fine print and he just said, if you're taking this pill, please refrain from running the country.
Is that something we need to start throwing in there on this? For real. Yeah. I mean, I say it with tongue in cheek, but I mean, he's running the country, right? He's the most important. He's got the nuclear football just feet away from him, and he's all hopped up on drugs. Maybe allegedly.
Well, there have been leaks from his campaign all the way back to 2019 that he was on these kinds of drugs, and it's also the worst kept secret in the House of Representatives and the Congress. Remember when we played video? I forget the congressman's name. He was on, I think it was Steve Bannon's show, and talking about how he went up to Joe Biden, he was shaking his hand. And he said his goal, and I think it was Ronnie Jackson. I think it was the doctor who told him to do this. Go up to Joe Biden and just see how much you can stall him. Because the minute he takes that pill, he has a timer.
It's a timer, right?
It's probably about 45 minutes to an hour based on his age and the ability. So every minute you can delay him is a 1 minute less that he can deliver a State of the Union under the medication. So that's what this congressman did. And sure enough, right, if you count it, if you watch the State of the Union from the minute he walks in the door to when he has that blow up exchange with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
Over what he said, Lincoln Riley. That was right around that 45-minute mark. Yeah. Where they said he was going to start losing it.
And Trump's out there sending truths like the medication's way off, right?
Yeah.
And all the fact checks that were out there, like, no, it never happened. I was just Googling the fact checks on the State of the Union, and I put that in there. Was he on drugs during it and stuff like that? And it doesn't even address it. Like Google and Microsoft Bing, they don't even put you towards stories that even talk about it. They just give you these fact checks that deal with like no crack bites. All the headlines are different. They're putting you in all the wrong directions.
Yeah,
because that's happening when the socials and all the search engines are trying to hide it.
Yeah. And so we know it doesn't last that long. So if you need him to record a video, I mean, that's why some days he comes out here and you're like, oh, wow, he actually knows what the hell he's talking about. Yeah. Other days he goes out there and he looks like he just has jello for brains. Yeah, and he doesn't know where he is. And he's wandering into the bushes and he doesn't remember people's names. There are good days, there are bad days, because you can't take this medication every day at his age. You just can't do it. And if you do, it'll make it less effective on the days that you actually really need to take it.
Yeah.
So when you see this video and you see it's 13 seconds, did they medicate him for this video? In the scheme of things, if you were running a campaign and you said, I don't know what the number, no one knows the number. You say you only have X number of doses you can give this guy.
Yeah.
Safely, right?
And it's
are you going to use
or weekly period, right?
Are you going to use one of those doses for this?
Yeah.
Right. if God forbid there's something blows up in the Middle East and he needs to give a speech tomorrow, give it to him today. You can't give it to him tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's lots of calculations here. So did they medicate him for a 13-second video that required 5 jump cuts? Or did they have to do the jump cuts because he was unmedicated and they literally had to go line by line by line because he couldn't remember what he was doing?
I think that's more likely, right? Because especially as a producer, because you don't want to waste your opportunities. There's times you got to have it ready, Max. You just do, right? And think about Jill Biden sitting there thinking it's okay to do that. I mean, just watching your husband being medicated and manipulated, right? I mean, would you want that to happen to your spouse?
No,
I wouldn't. I mean, it would really suck. But I think they medicated. I know his eyes are kind of big. Maybe some other medications. There's lots of other stuff he's probably on.
Oh, there's lots of other stuff, and I wouldn't put it past that he doesn't dust it up with cocaine every now and then. Remember, they did find that coke in the White House.
It was. We don't know who it was that brought it in.
Don't know who it was.
Yeah.
They actually had a partial name on the baggie. That was big news that broke. They had a partial name, but it was missing letters, so they couldn't definitively say who it was. They made it disappear. They made it.
It was just.
If it was national security, if it was like the fate of the nation at risk, they knew they would have been able to catch the guy. Get it? So we're left with this 13-second video clip of Joe Biden saying that he's going to debate Donald Trump, but we know that it isn't an open-ended invitation because he has these rules: no live audience. That's very interesting to me because the live audiences a lot of times are what makes this debate so great.
Yeah.
Right. When a candidate has a really breakout moment, the live audience will cheer or groan or gasp. Mm-hmm. And that kind of elevates the stakes for everyone watching at home. Mm-hmm. Like, oh crap, that just went down. What just happened? Without a live audience, you're gonna have the temperature of the room really given to you by the pundits afterwards.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Right? And so who do you trust more? Do you trust the live studio audience or do you trust the pundits who have a horse in that race? We all know. Very clear why he doesn't want a live audience because half of them would be Republicans, half of them would be Democrats, and half of the Democrats would be Free Palestine. And would probably shout him down.
Yeah. Well, what about the clock on this one too? Because when those moments happen, there's delays, right? And every time there's a delay, that's time that's ticking off of his clock that he can operate. So I think there's a lot of levels to them not wanting that audience, right? Because now they can control the clock, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Right. The moment they hit the tick and the drug is in, they've got him out there. They will him out. I mean, that's the other thing, right? There's no audience to delay.
The crowd can't stretch it, right?
Yeah.
Stretch it. Crowd can't do that. It's definitely, there's a lot of reasons for him to do it. It is a very interesting take though, that he is the first president to have a debate and to demand that people not be allowed to go into the room to watch it.
Wow.
He wants it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the people he says to represent, but I don't want you here.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be a slap in the face to everybody. It should also tell you that, everything has to be perfect for him to survive the debate.
Yeah.
Because what are the other things he's asking for, right? Donald Trump's mic to be clicked off while he's speaking.
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, if we want to be fair, I think that it'll stop Trump from getting that jab in where you want the jab in, but I think it also is going to protect Trump from Trump. I think that a lot of times Trump can come across as being pushy, as being a little stepping too far.
Yeah, he's at that. But what happens if Biden just starts speaking over Trump and the rules are he can mute him whenever mute him every time he's talking, right?
You like to think that there's going to be one side gets to talk, a rebuttal, and then it opens up for the conversation. That's how the rules usually go.
They don't care about rules.
You like to think that when it says no, Trump's mic's muted, it's not whenever Biden's speaking. It's just for that rebuttal or that initial. But we'll see.
I'm cynical, but I'm being cynical on that. But I think that just watch it happen. Right? It only has to happen once.
I could see a world I could see a world where not letting Trump talk over Biden could actually help Trump. Like, I could understand why Biden
I
could
want
think
the
it would help
digs,
him.
though.
I like the digs. I like the digs, but I also know that the people who like Trump are going to like him even if he doesn't get that in. That
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who could be put off if he's constantly interrupting. So
Yeah,
I could see it. I could see it go both ways.
He's more of a statesman, though. I think he's more
Yeah.
mature on the debate platform. I think Trump's learned a lot, so we'll
There-
find out. I
There
can't
was
wait
an
to see what
interesting
happens.
comment. Yeah, there was an interesting comment because I think the first debate's next month.
Yeah.
Because that was a legitimate gripe that both the Democrats and the Republicans had with the Presidential Commission on Debates, was
Yeah.
that they held the debates before early voting had started.
Oh,
And that's bullshit, right? If you're going to have a debate and you know that these debates can move the needle, it's messed up to allow millions of people to vote before these debates happen. Now, there's no requirement that people watch the debates in order to vote.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch. You can do whatever you want. But having all those votes already baked in, because you remember in 2016 and in 2020, when there were debate moments, especially in 2016, when Donald Trump had some real zingers against Hillary Clinton.
yeah.
One of the top searches on Google immediately after the debate was asking if people could change their ballots if they've already been sent in. That was a search term that spiked in Google.
Yeah.
So
Right.
given that happened, we talked about it on our last
Yeah.
show.
I remember that show. Yeah.
And we were looking through it. Some states you can, some states you can't. It's very fair to want these debates to happen before early voting takes place. I mean, Democrats will never do the opposite. The opposite would be stop letting people vote 2 months before the election, right? But alas, that's not going to change. So it makes sense to want the debate to happen earlier. June is crazy because that's before either
Yeah.
Biden or Trump has been nominated by their
Mhm.
party.
Which, the clock is ticking on Joe Biden. We talk
Yeah.
about him being on the drug and the clock is ticking. Well, the disease state itself, if real, the clock is ticking.
Yes.
And if he's not on drugs and he's a vegetable, there may not be time left on the clock. And there's no
Oh,
2-minute
yeah.
warning on that stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
one day they go from
They-
being talking to not being able to go to the bathroom on their own.
They might need to weekend at Bernie's this thing at the end. Who knows? So yeah, in this world, you have to make hay when the sun is shining. I completely
Yeah.
get that. So that'll be interesting. The other demand from Biden's camp is that RFK Jr. should not be allowed to attend the debates, which is
Why?
interesting because if you look at the Committee on Presidential Debates, you look at their rules,
Mhm.
their threshold to be added to the debate stage historically has been 15%.
Okay.
If they look and they look through the 5 most recent polls from reputable pollsters, and there's always this debate like, oh, you should use this poll, should use this poll. So they'll have some wiggle room there, but they want to see 5 polls before the debate showing at least 15%. And technically that applies to every candidate.
Mhm.
If the Democrat didn't get 15% in a poll, they wouldn't be invited. The major party candidates don't automatically get invited to these things.
Yeah.
They qualify just like everyone else. So when you see it's 15%, and then you look at the poll, the most recent polls for RFK Jr., make this bigger so people can see it. You look at the RCP average of polls. Kennedy is at 10.8%.
10%. Say
Now,
11. Yeah.
In a world, round up to 11, sure. In a world where West and Stein supporters coalesced around Kennedy, he'd be at 14%, 14.5%. Then you start looking at some of these polls that have been done in the last month. You look at a CNN poll that had him at 16%, a Quinnipiac poll that had him at 16%, Harvard Harris, ABC News had him at 12%. These are major polls.
Polls, yeah.
So you start looking forward into the clock and saying, can he get that to 15% in time for a debate? Absolutely doable. Absolutely doable to get 15% in a poll if you're launching from having between 10 and 16% already. And we know how this works, right? We saw it in the Republican debates, how you can easily game the system and you can put out a lot of advertising to try and bump up your support in the polls that might not reflect the entire population, right? You could literally buy your way onto a Republican debate stage if you have enough money to convince 1% of Iowans to vote for you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
hard. It's really not that hard. So you can understand Biden's perspective. If he was to go through the Commission of Presidential Debates, an audience where everyone on stage gets a percentage of the tickets, in a world where RFK Jr. can scrounge 15%, it's not just him on the stage, it's his supporters in the audience.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And imagine being the big bleed vote.
Yeah.
Because the fear is that Kennedy outpaces Biden, and we got that situation back in the 90s where Ross Perot bleeds enough off, Bill Clinton becomes president. That's their worry, right? They know that that's there. They don't even want to give him a platform, and they know that he could be there in one of the traditional debates. So hold it before he can even get in. He's too much of a maverick. He's too much of a danger. Right. And I've been looking to see if Kennedy has made any statements on this yet. And I haven't seen it. There's lots of groups out there.
His supporters are pissed.
I bet.
They're furious. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump didn't have a debate with RFK Jr. If it happened on Fox, like if Biden doesn't accept the Fox interview, I could see a world where Donald Trump would debate RFK Jr., but the questions would be conservative questions.
Sure.
And going after Biden. I could see it. Probably wouldn't be smart to do, but I could see it happening if Trump needs the boost, right?
Yeah, I'd say Trump supporters are already in, no matter pretty much what happens. The only ones that aren't would be independents on the Biden side. And if they get any, and if Kennedy gets any of that FaceTime on TV and they sway just 5% of that vote, it's damning because he's already lost the African American vote for the most part. I mean, at least he's got there's more support for Trump out of that group than has ever been.
Yeah.
Right. You can't dissuade the Latino vote, right? Even if he was to bleed off 5% from Joe Biden, I mean, he's getting into weaker territory. I don't see unions pulling. Unions might prefer Kennedy over Biden at this point too, right?
Yeah.
And that's big. Those are the big three that they've relied on for decades.
And even an issue like abortion, I don't see conservatives going to Ted I keep wanting to call him Ted Kennedy. Going to RFK Jr. I can't see conservatives going there, especially if they're pro-life conservatives, because RFK just literally last week said he supports abortion up to full-term babies.
Yeah,
and
that's insane.
Crazy. That even Biden doesn't go that far, right?
Yeah.
So in a world where someone is really, really rabidly pro-abortion, their candidate would be Kennedy, not Biden, because he goes further on this. He goes further on the issue.
Yeah. Which means that those people that were supporting Biden before that were pro-abortion, they jump off that bandwagon. Now that can be a monstrous number there, Max. I mean, monstrous number, especially with women. And if they get that demographic, even, if there's even a little bit of bleed on that, 3-4%. I mean, Biden's facing not an uphill battle. He's in the fight for his political life, right? Yeah. Another two, it would be like 2 consecutive one-term presidents, right? Trump and Biden, which would be wild. I don't think we've ever had that.
No. And so obviously, you look at this Rasmussen, you say, okay, Rasmussen tends to skew pretty heavily towards conservatives, whatever. But then you also look at the CNN poll. And then there was a New York Times poll that didn't make it on this that we covered on our last episode, talking about the swing states. Not every poll has made it into the RCP average. There's a lot to be worried about for Biden, absolutely. And if you're Trump, I think you want to add some rules of your own. I think you don't want to allow bathroom breaks. I think we're just going to do this. We're not going to have commercial breaks. We're just going to do it. Stay the course and do it. I think you want to ban all earpieces, not just earpieces for you or Biden, but also earpieces for the moderators. You can still have earpieces for producers and stage managers and things like that. But if the moderators are going to moderate it, it should be up to them. If a candidate starts really getting into it with a moderator and making them look like crap, there shouldn't be a whole control room of editors and writers there to give the moderator some talking points, right? So I think no earpieces should definitely be a rule. If I was Trump, I'd want a piss test. For performance enhancing drugs.
The other thing is, I want to know. I mean, is Biden going to get a list of
PEDs.
questions beforehand? Too?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to
No.
do a P-test, and are there going to be loaded questions? Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that whole slew. If Biden's in control, so
Yeah.
I at least like to know the topics before we go into it. Right. There's got to be a lot
Yeah.
going on there, and having a P-test like that, there's no way they're going to announce what the president of the United States has in his freaking system. Dude. It's never going to happen.
No, but
Never.
I would want it.
I would too.
I didn't even think about this.
Yeah.
The no audience means there will not be a town hall style debate.
Yeah, no one gets to ask hard questions.
Every election we've had where they've done this, I think, going all the way back to maybe not the Nixon debates because those were terrible. That was, I think the modern one going all the way back to the 1980s. I think they've always had a town hall debate where different people in the audience got to ask questions.
Yeah.
To be a presidential candidate and to say I don't accept that, I don't want to take questions from the audience.
Whew.
I mean, the obvious, if you're asking why would someone want to do that, the obvious answer is you have no supporters, right?
Mhm.
Or you don't trust people to give you a fair shot. It's a really bad look to say no, I'm the first president that will not allow that.
And how many people in the audience might be that one guy that shows up and he's like, F you, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
F you. Right. You also want to avoid that because that's happening everywhere he goes. There's one guy in particular that follows him everywhere and just says that. Right.
It's the 7-year-olds.
Yeah. And it's the kids.
He says all the time 7-year-olds are giving him the finger.
Right. And if they're so scared, why are they scared of the audience? That'd be the first question I want to pose. Why are you so scared of the audience? Trump would bring in people he's never met. To have an audience. He would just start picking people off the street.
Oh, for sure.
That shows you everything you need to know.
For sure. There's also some reporting out there that one of the reasons that Biden doesn't want people in the audience, and I think Biden's team expects it to be so strictly no audience that not even family members would be allowed to attend. One of the reasons is they were pissed that Donald Trump and his family didn't wear masks when they debated in 2020. And they're still harping on about mask wearing. We're in 2024, and that's one of the reasons that we're hearing behind the scenes why they don't want a live studio audience, because they don't trust the Trump family to not get everyone sick. It's wild.
It's just the craziest thing. What are they going to sick with? COVID? Or is it going to be the new, the chicken?
It's going to be something.
Something flu that's popping up.
Avian
right
flu.
Now. H5N1 or N1, H5N1 or whatever it is now.
Yeah, bird flu.
I mean, but think about how convenient that new virus is right before the election year, right? What happens if there's an outbreak in the White House and he has to cancel all of a sudden? I mean, the president can cancel for any reason he wants to. And all they have to say is that the president has something to do, right?
In fairness, immediately after Donald Trump debated Joe Biden, it was announced he had COVID. And there is some reporting to suggest that Trump might have known he had COVID when he got on that debate stage. So in fairness, if you're Joe Biden and you're literally hanging on by a thread right now to this little thing called immortal existence, I can understand being a little pissed off that my opponent might have known he had COVID, but still went on stage with me and shook my hand. I can get it, but
just at his age,
right?
Just his age alone, he's in a high risk group.
You look at these polls though, and one of the things you see consistently is that Donald Trump is either leading by a lot or tied. Yeah. Everywhere where Biden is winning, he is within the margin of error. That is not the same for Trump. Trump is outside the margin of error on all but one of the polls.
Blows my mind. The Rasmussen blows my mind. That's a big ass lead.
Donald Trump is either within the margin of error or winning in all of these polls.
I've said it before. In 2020, when they were within the margin of error and Biden was up by 4, that was a huge win for them. They were trumpeting that across all of the 24-hour cycles, right? It was huge. He's up by 4. We know it's in the margin of error, but he's leading. And that was what they were hanging their hat on. But now they don't have that.
The pollsters don't count ballot harvesting, right? The pollsters count registered voters and likely voters. So the people who have no interest in there just having their ballots collected, they don't get counted in the polls.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of this too. But one thing that I think is very clear from Donald Trump's lead or resurgence in these polls, because it didn't always look like this, It didn't always look like this. You go back to
Last
go.
year, wasn't
It
it?
only lets
Like
me go
late?
here. He's been leading in all of these, but when you let me see if I can find one without the
Yeah, because
third-party
we went to a
candidates.
point last year where Trump was down 4 points or within the margin of error, right? I
Yeah.
kind of remember that mid year last year. I thought.
So Donald Trump has really been taking the lead since last October. Other than that, it's kind of been flip-flopping back and forth. It hasn't always looked like this, though. And one of the reasons that we're seeing the polling shift so significantly in Donald Trump's favor is that while Joe Biden and his cronies might be going after Trump in court, the court of public opinion has already settled that these lawsuits, that these criminal prosecutions against Trump are politically motivated. That, I mean, you have pundits on CNN admitting that if it was anyone else, they wouldn't have been prosecuted in New York for this hush money trial. You have Michael Cohen on the stand this week admitting to crimes. He's admitting to crimes, admitting to defrauding a bank. According to Letitia James, defrauding banks, lying to banks is a major prosecutable crime.
Yeah.
Michael Cohen said that he applied for a home refinance mortgage and lied about the purpose of it. So, I mean, like, is Letitia James going to go after him, or is it only Trump who gets prosecuted for these things? And there was something that happened this week where the White House press secretary, KJP, she was asked to weigh in on whether she thought it was acceptable for the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, to be present at Donald Trump's trial in New York, which is something that she could comment on. She could legally comment on it because as the press secretary for the White House, she can comment on the actions of the Speaker of the House. But she refused to issue a comment saying that it would violate the Hatch Act.
Appropriate for Speaker Johnson to show up at the trial of the former president today?
So look, I can't speak to, don't want to comment, obviously, as this is related to 2024 elections, and I can't speak to the speaker's schedule. That is something for him to decide on. And
so the official narrative is that Donald Trump's trials have nothing to do with the 2024 election.
Wow.
If you are asked, because basically, take Donald Trump out of it, right? She's being asked to comment on the Speaker of the House attending a trial. Doesn't matter who the trial's for. She's asked about the Speaker of the House attending a trial. She says she cannot answer because it has to do with the 2024 election. We know that it does, but their official story is supposed to be that it has nothing to do with the 2024 election.
Wow. Plausible deniability there, right? If I never make a statement on it, I never have a statement.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of crazy. I've never heard of a press secretary doing that. And how many times have we watched KJP just leave after a doozy question?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
She's in the habit of not answering questions. Right. She's probably the worst press secretary I think we've ever had because of her complete just disregard for answering questions and the media. Right. The people that should be holding them accountable are the ones that do.
Yeah.
So is it shocking?
I don't know. She admitted it. She admitted that this is actually political. Because if you want us to believe that there's nothing political about this, then there's no problem with her commenting on a prosecution. Usually the story is we don't comment on ongoing investigations. We don't comment on ongoing prosecutions. We don't want to bias the jury. We don't want to do anything. That's usually the official line.
Yeah.
Unless they actually want to talk about it. She could have said that and it would have been fine. It's the policy of this administration not to discuss ongoing trials, ongoing court cases, or ongoing prosecutions so that we don't bias jury pools. That'd be fine. Barack Obama did that all the time. His administration did that all the time. Instead, she says, the quiet part out loud, I can't talk about the prosecution of Joe Biden's political opponent because this is a 2024 campaign issue.
we're not involved, but we are involved.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. I'm not going to talk about it because we do talk about it behind closed doors, and it's part of the
Mhm.
plan to make sure he doesn't get elected. Also, the whole reason they probably got this date so early is that's the same time that Trump might be given a decision on his cases, right? What if Trump can't attend on those days because they
That's another thing.
prosecuted him and
That's
he's
another
in
thing.
jail?
He had to beg pretty please to be allowed to go to his son's graduation. He
Yeah.
was not allowed to go to his mother-in-law's funeral.
Yeah.
He gets this on the books. I mean, Joe Biden schedules this. What if the DOJ wants to have him in prison at that time?
Yeah.
Right? What
Yeah.
what if what if it wouldn't be DOJ, it would be New York for this case, right? But what if Georgia demands that he attend an in-person hearing? What if
Wow.
Jack Smith
Yeah.
wins his Supreme Court case and demands a hearing schedule for that day?
Yeah.
It's
And-
it is possible.
I mean, he would be on the tightest flights you can imagine to get it done and to make it happen if it were to happen, right? I mean, he's just one statement away from being in contempt right now, too, and
Yeah,
staying in
yeah.
prison until then,
Yeah.
right? So it's shady. They don't want this to happen. They're desperate
No.
that it doesn't happen, but they're certainly setting up to make it look like Joe Biden wants it, and it won't happen because the guy's a criminal. He just couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to be on a debate stage with a criminal, right? Because that's beneath me. I mean, there's so much optics on this coming out of Biden's camp, and
Yeah.
what all we can do is
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that in his, so you can say, okay, it's just a joke. He said, hey, let's pick a date. I hear you're free on Wednesdays. The joke being that that's the day Donald Trump doesn't have trial on his current case. It does add another layer to this when you recognize that the days that Donald Trump will be able to attend or will not be able to attend will largely be determined by Joe Biden's own DOJ,
Right?
or in
Yes.
many cases by Joe Biden appointed judges,
Mhm.
or by prosecutors who just randomly, coincidentally, just happen to have hired DOJ officials who conveniently quit so that they could work on these state level prosecutions on cases that just so happened to have originated at the White House special counsel's office, which we covered on a
Wild.
previous podcast.
Wild.
Right? So saying, yeah, I'll debate you. Let me know when you're free. I hear you can do Wednesdays because that's not when you're being forced to attend these
court.
sham prosecutions.
Yeah.
But I can't promise that because my people might actually demand you be in court on Wednesdays. So who knows? We'll play it by ear.
Those veiled threats, those implied
Yeah.
threats, that can be there, right? I mean, it's a political play. It's pretty impressive.
It adds another level to this.
Yeah, it makes it even
Another
dirtier.
thing that came out this week
Yeah.
is, so you have Judge Merchan, Juan Merchan.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has issued motions demanding that Judge Merchan recuse himself for a number of reasons, including the fact that his daughter is a political activist, not just a political activist, that she actually has political clients, that she engages in political fundraising. And that among her clients, I believe one of them was Adam Schiff, and was actually fundraising off of the case that her dad was presiding over. That creates a huge conflict of interest because you have the daughter of the judge financially profiting from the case, right? Hey, we need a marketing campaign. What ideas do you have? Because that's what these firms do. Pitch us ideas. Oh, why don't we do the Trump case? Oh, well, if you have the daughter of the judge proposing that you do the Trump case, you do the Trump case. And all of a sudden, bam, you have this. Ray is saying that they just confirmed the dates. Yeah, they confirmed the dates. What we're saying is that they're confirmed until a judge says that Donald Trump has to be in his courtroom. The debates can be confirmed between Trump, Biden camps, and the networks, but any of these judges in these cases could demand that Trump be in their courtroom.
Yeah.
The only one where it would be convenient would be for the CNN debate if Donald Trump had to be in Fulton County, which is right there in Atlanta. So that's what we were saying. So we have Judge Merchan's daughter, we know, profiting from this. News just dropped today, which is pretty remarkable. Michael Cohen is on the witness stand, and Michael Cohen has been coached by Representative Dan Goldman. Representative Dan Goldman has been prepping Michael Cohen for the Trump trial.
I saw this and my jaw just.
Representative Dan Goldman is a client of Judge Merchan's daughter, political client. So just to make this abundantly clear, the prosecution's star witness is being prepped for testimony with the prosecutors by a sitting Democrat congressman who just so happens to have paid the judge's daughter's firm more than $150,000 in political consulting fees.
Wow.
This is the kind of web of conflicts of interest that you can't unravel. This is why the minute that it was revealed that the judge's daughter, it doesn't just matter that she's in politics. The minute it was revealed that the judge's daughter was working in politics around this case, that judge should have been removed.
Yeah.
Now,
oh my gosh,
we have the man coaching the prosecutor's star witness, paying the political consulting group that pays the judge's daughter.
This, man, talk about some like really incestuous, gross political shit. That's just mind-blowing. So why is the judge still on the case? Why hasn't he personally recused himself? Right? I mean, if the man had any integrity, he would be recusing himself.
Yeah. Yep.
But he doesn't.
Yep.
And he's staying on it.
This is going to get this thing tossed.
It may.
Because it's not just, you could say that you have, it's okay. So, okay, she works in politics, but that's an arm's length away. She worked for Adam Schiff, but Adam Schiff has the right to free speech. If Adam Schiff wants to fundraise on this case, that's his right. And my daughter is just giving him advice.
Yeah.
Now you have a sitting member of Congress paying $150,000 to a political consulting firm. And then that member of Congress just so happens to be prepping and coaching the witness, presumably with the prosecutors.
This whole case has to be thrown out right now. You've got to throw it out right now.
Any argument that Judge Merchan and his daughter had no intersecting points goes away right now.
Yeah.
Goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a direct connection there. That's illegal, isn't it?
Well, yeah, what you would say is that the only reason that a sitting member of Congress would be coaching a witness would be because he has a political interest in this.
Yeah.
Dan Goldman isn't doing this out of the goodness of his heart. This is a political issue for him. Well, he's paying a political consulting group to help with his political strategies, right? And who works for this political consulting firm? Oh, it's the judge's daughter. It's the judge's daughter who's giving him political advice that he's presumably following, which has led him to coach a witness to try and help the prosecution win the case. You can't unring the bell.
Oh my gosh.
You can't unravel this conflict of interest. This should get the whole thing tossed.
Yeah.
You can't argue that she's unconnected. Because remember, the standard is the appearance of a conflict of interest. You don't actually have to prove that the consultancy money was paid to give him advice to help him impact the trial. This has created the appearance of a conflict of interest that cannot be just explained away.
Did Adam Schiff do the same thing? Because once I put in the coaching Michael Cohen just into Twitter or X to see what would come up, And even Lou Dobbs is touching on 10 hours of coaching between
10 hours.
shift.
Do you think that a sitting member of Congress coaches a witness for 10 hours and the political consulting firm that he has on retainer doesn't get involved? That's what I mean. It's the appearance of a conflict of interest.
It's just not an appearance. I mean, I'm thinking this is so real. It needs to be addressed right now.
Yeah.
This is the case needs to be thrown. Plus, Cohen's a convicted liar, right? He is a perjurer. He has made stuff up. He was the star witness, and his testimony was so damning to the prosecution because he's saying, I set up fake accounts. I did it without their knowledge, right? This is their star witnesses. Not only is he a horrible witness, he's being coached by sitting members of Congress who are connected to the daughter of the judge. I mean, this feels like old Soviet Union stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It really does. And there's other news coming out because Michael Cohen's lawyer has gone before Congress. And this is relatively recently. Michael Cohen's lawyer testified before Congress that in advising his client Cohen told him that he never believed Stormy Daniels' story, believed that Trump was being extorted, and stepped in to try and make it go away so that he'd be put into Trump's good graces. We have the clip for this. We can go ahead and play this as you sneeze.
Through further cross-examination, Cohen told me that he knew there was money missing from the Trump inauguration.
I see where you are now. Thank you.
Okay, and then on the next page, into that first paragraph, Cohen decided that while he didn't believe the allegation of the Stormy Daniels story, that he thought the story would be embarrassing for Trump and especially for Melania, so he decided he would take care of it himself.
Absolutely, and that is contrary to what this guy testified to in court in New York yesterday.
Well, and what's not being talked about is your next paragraph, like the reason and his motivation for that. So if you could just kind of walk through that for the committee.
Yeah.
The minute that this is Cohen's lawyer who's testifying before Congress because his former client just lied in court. He told this lawyer that he intervened because he thought it was a shakedown, that it was extortion, and that it was going to hurt Trump and it was going to hurt Melania. The minute that that becomes even a partial reason, the claim of campaign finance fraud goes away. Goes away. You have the right to do something to help a friend. You have the right to do something because you want to get in the good graces of your boss. Just because that person's running for office doesn't mean you're not allowed to do these other things. Doesn't mean that his wife just has to suffer the slings and arrows of all of these extortionist plots. Wow. So you have him on the record telling all these people, all of these investigations, all of these panels, all of these judges, all of these courts, though this is why I did it. But now that he has a chance to put his former boss in prison, which he said under oath he wants to do, he's changed his story.
The man is a pathological liar in some of these events. Again, this is another first in American politics under the Biden administration. I've never even heard of anything like this before in American politics.
No.
And my scope could be narrow at times, but man, that. Oh, as an update there, Adderall is really trending on Twitter right now, and it's probably has to do because of the Joe Biden thing. Like, they have him on the Adderall, just keeping him focused? I mean, come on, all you Twitters out there, kind of funny. But man, there's a ton going on there, man. I don't even know how to begin to. I want to help. Who do we inform of these things? Who can actually make changes in the DOJ to make sure that this doesn't happen? And it's the president of the United States, isn't it? It's Merrick Garland, is it?
Well, so we've known forever that the deep state, these entrenched establishment forces and parties, that they had tremendous power, and that they have tremendous power to bring prosecutions on their enemies, right? We know this happens. This happens on the right. It happens on the left. My congressman just got indicted. The only congressman, Democrat congressman, critical of Biden. Oh, well, we just indicted him.
Mm.
And I'm not saying he's innocent, but it's quite fitting that he was only placed under investigation shortly after he started speaking ill against Joe Biden. So we know that they've had this power, right, to make their enemies suffer. What we've seen with Trump is that it's almost like it's a fight for their own survival, that they know he's actually going to clean house if he gets in again.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have the time to cross the T's, dot the I's, and make it all look legit. And they had to run it through the White House special counsel's office. They had to have Biden appointed officials at the DOJ resign and join Alvin Bragg's team, right? They couldn't just let it work its way out. They had to actually get involved. And it gets really messy. When you feel like when you have to rush things, you don't follow the details, you're not able to hide it as well, right? I mean, that's one of the things that you'll hear if you talk candidly with political candidates. One of their greatest fears is that the FBI or the CIA is going to put really bad stuff on their computer.
I know, which
the
is
acronym.
scary.
I'm not going to say it out loud, but the acronym would be CP. And then the FBI kicks down the door, finds it on the computer, and they don't care how much you protest. I have no idea what that is. I didn't download that. It's been put on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
You're done.
Yeah.
There's a legitimate fear in Congress that could happen to them if they speak ill of these agencies, of these departments. So we know they have the power to destroy people's lives. With Trump, they only had a limited amount of time. They had to rush this stuff.
Yeah. It is scary. We live in a world where this kind of deep state does exist. Remember, we were told that we were crazy for thinking about such a thing. And members of Congress are terrified of it. So much so that if they're not willing to do certain things because they're afraid of that kind of stuff ending up on their computer, what else have they been leveraged into not doing?
Yeah.
Who else is putting the thumb screws to them?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Mike Johnson, he has kind of changed his tune a little bit after
back and forth.
Closed door meeting, right? Like,
yeah,
what's the stuff that they're pelting him with that he has to contend with, right? I mean, we don't know if people are being actively threatened within government by intelligence agencies. And if so, they could never tell anybody, because the moment they do, they'd get busted by them, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's this secret Gestapo out there that you have to walk on eggshells around. And that's not a free country.
Mike Johnson's problem is like so many other political creatures. His number one goal is to maintain power, to be reelected, to maintain the speakership. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to do that, even if it means getting Democrats to vote for him by giving them what they want. What happened last week with the Ukraine aid bill was disgusting. They say, okay, we're gonna give Ukraine military aid, and we're gonna give Israel military aid. Help the Democrats, help the Republicans. Great. They sign it, and then Biden promptly pauses the Israel aid for 1 week. He just finally let it get dispersed, but that was disgusting. I mean, you had the Speaker of the House Republican teaming up with Democrats to give them what they want, as long as Republicans could get what they want. They signed the bill, and like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown, Joe Biden did it again. Democrats did it again. Oh, thank you for giving us our Ukraine funding. By the way, the Israel funding has been put on hold.
Yeah.
Right when Israel probably would need it the most, because they wanted to go on an offensive in southern Gaza. So he's just going to do whatever it takes to maintain power, and I don't trust anyone like that. He's cozying up to Trump because he's reading the tea leaves that Trump wins. He doesn't want to have the same relationship that Trump had with previous speakers of the House. But we're almost out of time. We didn't have time to cover it again today, but yet another illegal alien has been arrested for murder, this time in West Virginia. This man, David Antonio Calderon, police say is in the United States illegally from El Salvador. He was also accused of maliciously wounding 2 homeless people last month in Jefferson County, West Virginia. He was out on that malicious wounding, and they investigated, found him at the scene, found him fleeing the scene. So he was accused of burning a woman. This woman was found dead on a couch that had been incinerated. So listen, I'm not saying that all of everyone who comes into the country are murderers, but a shocking number of these illegal aliens who are coming in on Joe Biden's open border guarantee, a shocking number are being arrested for murder and other serious violent crimes. I look for these and I'm like, okay, well, it's happening every day. We can't do a whole show about it, but every single day I'm compiling these cases. This was 2 days ago. Happened 2 days ago. So this is happening every day. Every day.
Those people would still be alive if
yeah.
Mayorkas didn't let him walk right through.
If this guy didn't
Probably
get in that
flew
country,
him in.
if this guy didn't get in that country, like there are other violent people in the United States, it's fine. But if this guy didn't come in the country illegally, that woman wouldn't have been burned to death.
Yeah.
Full stop. Not to say she couldn't have been killed some other way, but she wouldn't have been burned to death. And those two homeless people wouldn't have been maliciously wounded. Not saying that they would have gotten hurt other ways from other people. But it's insane. This guy's in the country illegally. He beats on two homeless people. And rather than just being deported, he's released back into society to kill someone else.
Not even in jail.
No.
Out. Welcome
Chris,
to Biden's America.
We're going to keep highlighting it. It's happening. This is literally an everyday phenomenon.
This is too much. This is...
If you are letting so many people into the country, no questions asked, that there are murderers among them who are pretty much being caught every day, there is something seriously, seriously wrong with this class of immigrants.
Yeah.
Not saying that they're all bad, but there is more than enough bad people among this class of immigrants entering the country that we need to stop this.
Get 'em.
So we'll keep covering it. Any final words?
Joe Biden's America is just constant firsts. First to have, you name it at this point. We're never going to see this again. And if you don't change the way our system works, you're going to be doomed to live in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, that's it for this episode of the podcast. If you like the podcast, we are live on Rumble. We're live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. So make sure you like us there. If you're watching on Twitter, head over to Rumble, follow us there. Head on over to YouTube, follow us there, Right Guys Podcast. Also, we have the audio edition of the podcast, which is pretty much everywhere you can find audio podcasts. So you can subscribe there. It makes it easy if you're driving, you can't watch us live. We try to make this as audio friendly as possible. So check that out. Set it up to auto download. And that way it's there every day, no matter what. That's it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back the country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together. See you next time.
See ya.